I should have known something was wrong the moment the ranger hesitated. We were checking into the backcountry permit station just after dawn, tired from the drive but excited to finally be off-grid. I told the ranger, a quiet guy with tired eyes, that we planned to hike past the old dry creek bed and make camp near Whisper Rock Hollow. He blinked at me like I'd said something offensive. "You sure about that spot?" he asked. "Ain't marked for a reason." I just laughed and shrugged it off, trying to get away from people for a few nights. He didn't laugh. He looked at my brother Luke, then back at me. "Just don't wander too far after dark," he said. "Things echo strange out there." That was 3 days ago. Now, I'm writing this on 10% battery, locked inside my tent, clutching a pocket knife like that'll do anything. Because something just walked past my tent a second ago, and it sounded exactly like my brother. We started the hike lighthearted. Luke cracked jokes about cryptids and Bigfoot sightings. He was younger than me by 4 years. Always a skeptic, always trying to make me laugh. We had both grown up on ghost stories from our grandmother, tales about Yinaldlushi, skinwalkers, and spirits that copied your voice and wore your face, but neither of us believed in any of that. Still, the forest felt different here, too quiet. The trail disappeared after a few miles, swallowed by knee-high sagebrush and twisted pinyon. By late afternoon, we found a flat spot near a rock formation shaped like a bent finger, pointing up at the sky. That had to be Whisper Rock, we figured. We set up camp. The first weird thing happened just after sunset. I was gathering firewood maybe 30 yards out, and I heard Luke call out, "Hey, bring some extra." Nothing strange about that, except his voice came from behind me. I turned, confused, but he wasn't there. When I got back to camp, he was poking the fire with a stick, exactly where I left him. "Did you call me?" I asked. He looked up, confused. "Nope." I didn't press it. Chalked it up to echo, maybe even a memory glitch. But I couldn't shake the cold that crept into my spine when I realized something. The voice I heard, it was his, but just slightly wrong, like it had come from inside a tunnel, or from someone trying to remember how his voice used to sound. Later that night, we sat by the fire with hot dogs on sticks, listening to the forest breathe around us. Luke looked uneasy. I asked him what was up. He paused for a long moment. "I think I saw something watching us earlier," he said, "over by the ridge." I scanned the dark tree line. Nothing. "A bear?" "No, it was standing." We laughed it off, even though we didn't really find it funny. He went to pee just after midnight. Never came back. At first I figured he was messing with me. Classic younger brother move. But 15 minutes passed, then 20, then 45. I went looking for him with a flashlight and my stomach twisted into knots. "Luke?" I called. No answer. Then I heard it. A voice, maybe 20 feet away, whispering just loud enough for me to make it out. "Help! I'm stuck!" It was him, but it wasn't coming from where I thought it should. I followed it. The brush grew thicker. The ground sloped down. The light of my flashlight started flickering. "Luke?" I said again. That's when I heard branches snapping. Not in front of me, but behind. I spun around, and there he was, standing at the edge of camp. "Where'd you go?" he asked. "I was looking for you." I stared at him. "You? I heard you yelling for help." His brow furrowed. "No, I was taking a leak and got turned around. Just found the trail back." I didn't believe him. Something was wrong, but I nodded. Went back to camp with him. He didn't eat, didn't speak much. Trim's features tightened to the fire, unblinking, watching me. It's 2 a.m. now. My tent is zipped tight. I can hear it again. That voice, pacing around the edge of camp, calling my name. Sometimes it sounds scared. Other times, it sounds like it's smiling. And worst of all, right before I turned off my phone to save battery, I got a text from Luke. One word: run. When I unzipped the tent, the fire had died down to embers, and the air was sharp with cold. But it wasn't the cold that froze me in place. It was him, sitting by the fire, head tilted, staring straight into the dark trees. He didn't even flinch when I stepped out. "Luke?" I said. He turned, slowly, like his neck was resisting the motion, eyes blank. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" I tried to keep my voice steady. "You sent me a text." His lips moved like he was tasting the word. "What?" "You sent me a message. Run." He looked confused, then pulled out his phone, one of those old brick-style Nokias he always carried when we went out, saying smartphones don't work off-grid anyway. "No service," he said, showing me the screen. "Been off all night." That should have made me feel better. It didn't, because he hadn't blinked once during that entire conversation. By morning, the woods didn't feel right anymore. Birdsong never started. No wind moved through the pines. Even the bugs were silent. It was like the forest was holding its breath. Luke, or whatever wore his face, was suddenly cheerful. Too cheerful. "Let's pack up," he said. "I think we should head back early." That wasn't him. Luke hated cutting trips short. Last year, he hiked 5 miles on a sprained ankle just to reach a waterfall. "Why?" I asked. He shrugged. "Just a feeling." I noticed something else too, subtle but off. He kept calling me Big Brother. He never called me that, not even once growing up. It was always man, dude, or Eli. This felt rehearsed, like something was trying too hard to play a role. We packed up in silence. The woods around us felt heavy, like we were walking underwater. We took the path back toward the dry creek bed, but it didn't lead where it should have. It bent, curved, sloped upward into a stretch of forest neither of us remembered passing through. I turned to say something to Luke, and he was gone. No sound, no footprints, just vanished. My stomach dropped. I spun in a slow circle. "Luke?" No answer. Then I heard him, faintly, from deep in the trees. "Big bro, help me." I didn't move, because this time, the voice was even close to right. It was wrong. Hollow. Like someone imitating a voice they'd never heard spoken, only remembered, warped by time. It echoed in a way no sound should. "Please, help." I backed away. Then it laughed. Not Luke's laugh. Something higher, talking. Then, silence. It wasn't until the sun was almost gone that I found the real Luke, or what was left of him, hanging from the lower branch of a black pine, skin pale and loose like it had been worn and then discarded, eyes open, mouth frozen mid-scream. The thing had worn him like a coat. I fell to my knees and threw up in the snow. That's when I heard it again, behind me, footsteps, crunching through frost. Then a voice. "Hey, man," it said cheerfully. "Where'd you go?" I turned and saw him, Luke, smiling, backpack slung over one shoulder. Like he hadn't died at all, like the thing that wore him wasn't finished. It smiled like it had been practicing. My brother, or the thing wearing his face, took slow steps toward me, boots crunching over snow. It moved like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. Too smooth, too coordinated. "You okay?" he'd asked, tilting his head. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I said nothing. Not because I couldn't speak, but because I didn't trust what would come out. My throat felt raw from screaming. My hands were shaking. "I've been looking all over for you," it said. "You ran off, remember?" My voice finally broke through. "You're not him." It stopped just a few feet away. The smile never faded. "Of course I'm him. Who else would I be?" Then it did something I'll never forget. Something small, stupid, and reached up and scratched behind its ear. A twitch. An absent-minded tick. Exactly like Luke used to do when he was trying to lie. But Luke was dead, hanging from that pine like a discarded jacket. I stepped back. "You're just copying him. But you made a mistake." Its head twitched. Not tilted, twitched, like it glitched. And then the smile snapped. Its jaw went too wide. Skin tore faintly at the edges of its mouth. It snarled, low and almost canine. Then it blinked, slowly, like it remembered it was supposed to. "Come on," it said, voice almost trembling with amusement. "Let's head back. It's freezing out here." I ran. I didn't look back. I don't know how long. I just ran until the woods blurred around me, until my legs ached and my breath turned to mist. Somewhere behind me, I heard something crash through the trees, but it wasn't chasing me. It didn't have to, because every time I thought I was getting away, I'd end up right back at the clearing. Back to the tent, back to the fire ring, back to him. He'd be waiting, sitting calmly like nothing happened. No matter what direction I ran, the forest had closed in. It wasn't just the Skinwalker. The woods themselves wanted me to stay. That night, I didn't sleep. To the cold, watching the tent flap move in the wind, half expecting something to slip inside. At one point, I heard my own voice whisper back to me from the darkness, "You'll be warmer if you lie down." I didn't answer. I didn't even breathe. Hours passed. Then a sound outside. A dragging sound. Then wet footsteps. Squish, squish. And finally, a voice at the tent door. "Eli?" It sounded weak, human, broken. It was Luke's voice, but not the version that chased me. This sounded like my brother. The real one, but I knew better, because it whispered something only he would have known. Something we never told anyone. Something from when we were kids. And it broke me. I crawled to the edge of the tent and looked out. There was nothing there. Only fresh snow and deep footprints circling the tent. And at the end of the trail, right where the prints stopped, a single piece of skin, curled like a glove, still warm. When morning came, it didn't feel like morning. The trees still leaned in close. The light was gray, sickly, like the sun had been filtered through layers of ash. I left the tent and followed the trail. The footprints from the night before had begun to freeze over, but I could still see where they stopped, where that strip of skin had curled up in the snow, now stiff like old leather. I didn't want to touch it, but something about it called. I used a stick to flip it over. The underside was veined, sinewed, not fake, not fabric. It was real, human, Luke's. The woods were too quiet. Even the birds were gone. No chirping, no rustling, just a dense stillness that pressed into your chest. They'd walk in circles. No cell service, of course. No trail markers. Just the endless white. But around noon, I stumbled across something I hadn't seen before. A small frozen creek, maybe 10 feet across, shallow, iced over, and almost hidden by brush. And near the bank, bones, bleached, cracked, and scattered. Animal at first glance. Maybe a deer? As I got closer, I saw the truth. One had a metal pin drilled into it, like from surgery. Another with faint tool marks, as if something had tried to carve it. And worst of all, a small, half-buried boot, half-rotted, kid size. I didn't want to believe it, but I'd seen that brand before. It was the same kind Luke wore when we hiked as kids. I backed away, heart pounding. Then I heard the voice again. Eli! Soft, familiar, from the other side of the creek. But the creek was still iced over, thin, cracked in spots. The kind of surface you don't step on unless you want to drown in frozen black water. Help me, it said. I turned slowly. Across the creek, standing behind a cluster of frost-covered trees, was Luke. Not the twisted, grinning mimic from before, but Luke as I remembered him. Dirty jacket, crooked smile, hair matted with ice, and eyes. Real ones. Scared ones. He held his arm at a weird angle, like it was broken. He looked hurt, cold, human. You left me, he whispered. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to believe it. But I didn't move, because just behind him, in the shadows between the trees, I saw a second figure. Not moving, just watching. A little too tall, its skin just a little too tight. I blinked, and it was gone. So was Luke. Just an empty patch of trees. No footprints, no broken branches. Gone, like he was never there. Don't remember walking back. I just remember crawling into the tent and pulling the sleeping bag over my head like I was a child again. And from outside, I heard footsteps, circling again, closer this time, followed by soft scraping like nails against canvas, and a whisper right beside my ear, "You picked the wrong woods, Eli." By the time the sun finally broke through the canopy, the whispering had stopped. No more footsteps, no more circling. Just the wind slicing through dead branches like it was trying to warn me to run. I packed what I could. I left everything else. No trail, no GPS, no compass, just downhill. I kept moving, ignoring every voice that tried to stop me. Yes, they called my name. Yes, some of them sounded like Luke. And once, I swear to God, one of them sounded like me. But I never looked back. I made it to a ranger station by nightfall. Not the same one we checked in at. This one was older, boarded up, half swallowed by vines and rot, but it had a radio. Barely. I got one call out. Choppy, static-filled, but just enough. Rescue came the next morning. They found me wandering the forest's edge with a half-frozen sleeping bag and one boot. No trace of Luke. No tent, no fire pit, not even ashes. When I told them what happened, they nodded like they'd heard versions of it before. They didn't write it down, didn't ask follow-up questions. One of the older rangers, leathery skin, stone-still face, just looked me dead in the eye and said, "You made it out. That's all that matters." I asked if they'd looked for Luke. He said nothing for a long time. Then quietly, "Whatever wears his skin now isn't your brother." I tried to go back once, months later, and followed every old marker I could remember, even brought photos, coordinates. But the trail was gone. The hill we climbed, flattened. The creek dry, Even the ranger station? No record, no listing. Like it had never existed. It was like the woods had healed themselves shut. Like the whole thing had been a scar, and now the forest didn't want anyone picking at it. Sometimes, I still hear him. Late at night, when it's quiet, when the house creaks just the right way and the wind hums low, I'll hear his voice under the floorboards, or from the tree line behind my backyard. Clearly, always soft, always calm. Eli, I'm cold. Let me in. I don't respond, because I know what happens next. If I open that door, if I answer that voice, it won't be Luke who walks in.